What happens when one of the most carefully composed pop icons in America walks onto a live television set expecting warmth, and instead feels the temperature drop with every question? What happens when patience runs thin under studio lights, when a smile becomes armor, and when silence suddenly feels louder than shouting? Before we go any further, if you love explosive celebrity moments told like cinematic stories, make sure you subscribe to Prime Talk right now. Hit that like button, and drop a comment letting us know you're watching, because stories like this only get more intense from here. The studio of The View hums with its usual controlled chaos. Camera operators glide across the floor like dancers who have memorized every step. Producers whisper into headsets, counting down seconds with raised fingers. The audience, packed tightly into their seats, buzzes with anticipation. They know Ariana Grande is coming out. Not just Ariana the superstar, not just the chart-topping vocalist with a voice that bends notes like light through glass, but Ariana the public figure who has spent years under a microscope, praised for her talent and dissected for her choices. When she finally steps onto the stage, applause erupts instantly, loud and eager. Ariana smiles, that familiar, practiced smile, the one fans recognize from red carpets and late-night couches. She waves lightly, eyes scanning the crowd, posture calm, almost delicate. On the surface, everything looks perfect. But there is a tension in the air that doesn't belong to her alone. Joy Behar sits at the table with her signature confidence, papers neatly stacked, pen resting between her fingers. She leans back slightly, studying Ariana with an expression that is hard to read, half curiosity, half challenge. Joy has been on television for decades. She knows how to control a conversation, how to press where it hurts without ever raising her voice. The introductions are warm enough. Compliments are exchanged. Ariana thanks the hosts, her voice soft but clear, her tone polite, almost cautious. The audience relaxes. For a moment, it feels like this will be another friendly talk show appearance, another stop on a long press tour. Then the questions shift. Joy tilts her head and smiles, but her words carry an edge. She brings up Ariana's recent public scrutiny, the criticism, the endless online debates. "You've been everywhere lately," Joy says, lightly tapping her notes. "Some people say it's a bit much. Do you ever feel like you invite the backlash?" The audience murmurs softly. Ariana's smile tightens, just a fraction. She inhales, slow and controlled. "I think visibility comes with my job," she replies evenly. "I don't think anyone invites being misunderstood." Joy doesn't nod. She doesn't soften. Instead, she presses forward. "But when you make certain choices, public choices, don't you think people are allowed to question them?" The temperature in the room changes. It's subtle, but it's there. Ariana shifts in her chair, crossing her hands in her lap. Her eyes flick briefly toward the audience, then back to Joy. "People are allowed to have opinions," she says. "That doesn't mean those opinions always come from a place of full information." A ripple of applause breaks out, tentative at first, then stronger. One of the co-hosts smiles, trying to lighten the moment. Another jumps in with a gentler comment, but Joy doesn't let the momentum slip away. "Well," Joy says, leaning forward now, elbows near the table, "when you're a role model to millions of young fans, isn't there a responsibility to explain yourself?" That's when it happens. Not a blow-up, not a raised voice. Something quieter and far more dangerous. Ariana's expression changes. The smile fades completely, replaced by a stillness that commands attention. Her eyes don't flash with anger, they sharpen with resolve. For a split second, the studio is silent enough to hear the faint whir of the cameras. "I've spent most of my life explaining myself," Ariana says slowly. Her voice remains calm, but there's a weight behind every word. "I don't think existing requires justification." The audience reacts immediately. Applause, louder this time, mixed with a few gasps. Joy leans back, eyebrows raised, clearly not expecting the shift. She lets out a small laugh, the kind that suggests she's unfazed, but her grip on the pen tightens. "I'm just saying," Joy responds, "when you put it all out there, people are going to talk." Ariana nods once. "They always have," she says. "Even when I didn't put anything out there at all." That line lands hard. You can feel it in the room. One of the co-hosts glances between them, sensing the tension building. The producers behind the cameras exchange looks. This isn't in the rundown. Ariana straightens her posture, shoulders back now, her voice steady but no longer gentle. "I think there's a difference between curiosity and judgment," she continues. "And sometimes questions sound a lot like accusations. Joy opens her mouth to respond, but Ariana doesn't stop. She isn't interrupting aggressively, she's reclaiming space. I'm here to talk about my work, my art, and what it means to me. I'm not here to defend my character. The audience breaks into applause again, this time without hesitation. A few people stand. The energy surges, electric and undeniable. Joy's smile stiffens, but she nods slowly, as if conceding ground while refusing to admit it. Well, Joy says, measured now, that's fair. But the damage is done. The balance of power at the table has shifted, and everyone can feel it. Ariana exhales quietly, her hands still clasped, her gaze steady. She hasn't raised her voice once, yet the message is clear. Her patience is thinning, and the conversation has crossed into territory she won't navigate politely forever. As the camera pulls back and the discussion moves on, the audience knows they've just witnessed the beginning of something bigger. This wasn't a clash yet. It was the warning before the storm. The moment passes on camera, but the air never fully resets. Even as another co-host smoothly redirects the conversation, the tension lingers like static after a lightning strike. Ariana listens, nodding when appropriate, her posture composed, but something has shifted inside her. The careful balance between politeness and self-protection is starting to crack. Joy watches her closely now. Not aggressively, not openly, but with the quiet attention of someone recalculating their next move. The discussion turns to Ariana's career evolution, her transition from child star to global pop phenomenon, from sitcom laughter to stadium-sized anthems. On the surface, it's safe territory. Ariana speaks thoughtfully about growth, about finding her voice beyond expectations placed on her when she was still a teenager. The audience responds warmly, laughing at light moments, applauding when she speaks about creative freedom. But Joy isn't finished. So many young people look up to you, Joy says again, returning to a familiar thread. They see everything, your music, your relationships, your public statements. Do you ever worry that the image gets in the way of the message? Ariana's jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. She pauses longer than before. The silence stretches just enough to feel deliberate. I think the image is something other people project, she replies. The message comes from my work. Joy tilts her head. But you don't think the two are connected. A few audience members shift in their seats. This isn't curiosity anymore. It feels like a loop. Ariana senses it too. She uncrosses her hands, resting them flat on the table now, grounding herself. I think people simplify women, she says, her voice steady but firmer than before. Especially women in entertainment. Everything becomes a symbol instead of a human experience. There's a beat. Then applause. Stronger this time. More confident. Someone near the front nods emphatically. Joy lets out a small sigh, half amused, half skeptical. I don't think that's fair, she says. Men get criticized too. Ariana turns fully toward her now, meeting Joy's eyes directly. Not in the same way, she says without hesitation. And not with the same expectations attached. The room reacts instantly. A collective inhale. This is no longer a casual exchange. This is a line being drawn. One of the co-hosts tries to ease the moment with a light comment about double standards in Hollywood, but Joy doesn't let it soften. She leans in again, her tone sharper now. Are you saying you're treated unfairly because of your fame? Joy asks, because a lot of people would say fame comes with privilege. Ariana's lips part, then close. She blinks once, slowly. When she speaks again, her voice is quieter, but somehow heavier. Privilege doesn't cancel pain, she says. And it doesn't erase scrutiny. It just changes who's watching. The audience is silent now, fully locked in. Cameras zoom slightly closer, catching the subtle shift in Ariana's expression. No smile, no performance, just honesty edged with exhaustion. Joy nods, but her expression remains unconvinced. Some would argue, she says, that criticism is part of accountability. Ariana exhales through her nose, a breath she's been holding too long. Accountability for what? She asks. For being visible. That question hangs in the air, unanswered. A producer's voice murmurs urgently through someone's earpiece, but no one at the table breaks. Ariana continues, her words flowing now, measured but unmistakably emotional. I've taken responsibility for my mistakes. Publicly. Repeatedly. But there's a difference between accountability and punishment. And sometimes it feels like people want the latter. Applause erupts again, louder than before. This time it's sustained. Joy's mouth tightens slightly. She taps her pen once against the table, then sets it down. I'm not trying to punish you, Joy says. I'm asking the questions people at home are thinking. Ariana nods slowly. And I'm answering as someone who lives with those questions every day. There's a flicker of something behind Joy's eyes. Surprise, maybe. Or recognition. She leans back, crossing her arms loosely. For the first time, she doesn't immediately respond. The co-host beside her seizes the moment, praising Ariana's resilience, her openness. The crowd applauds again, relieved by the brief release. Ariana offers a small smile in response, appreciative but guarded. But the emotional momentum doesn't disappear. If anything, it builds. As the conversation moves toward Ariana's latest project, Joy jumps back in with a tone that sounds lighter but cuts deeper. Your fans are incredibly protective, she says. Do you think that ever shields you from valid criticism? Ariana lets out a soft, humorless laugh. I don't think anyone who's been online thinks I'm shielded from criticism, she replies. The audience chuckles, but there's an undercurrent of agreement. Joy raises an eyebrow. So you don't see any responsibility there. That's it. The last thread of patience begins to fray. Ariana's shoulders square. She looks directly into the camera for a brief moment, then back to Joy. I see responsibility in how I treat people, she says. In my work, in my integrity. I don't see responsibility in controlling how strangers interpret my existence. The studio erupts. Applause, cheers, even a few whistles. One co-host places a hand over her heart. Another nods vigorously. Joy exhales, her expression now a mix of defensiveness and reluctant respect. Fair enough, she says again, but this time the words sound heavier. Ariana leans back slightly, as if finally allowing herself a breath. But her eyes remain alert. She knows this isn't over. The questions have crossed from probing into personal, and the line between interview and confrontation is now razor-thin. The audience feels it. The hosts feel it. And Joy, whether she admits it or not, feels it too. This is no longer just a conversation about fame or criticism. It's about boundaries, and they are being tested live on air. The segment break arrives, but it does little to cool the room. When the cameras cut briefly, the audience buzzes in hushed voices, whispering to each other about what they've just seen. Some shake their heads in disbelief. Others nod impressed. Ariana remains seated, hands folded, staring down at the table for a moment longer than necessary. She takes a slow breath, the kind you take when you're bracing yourself. Joy adjusts her papers, her movements sharper now, less casual. Whatever playful tone once existed between them has evaporated. When the red light blinks back on and the director cues them live, the shift is immediate. This is no longer a friendly interview. It's a standoff dressed in daylight television. Joy wastes no time. There's something else I want to ask you, she says, her voice steady but unmistakably firm. You've spoken a lot about boundaries today. But when you're as influential as you are, don't you think boundaries can look like avoidance? The audience murmurs again, louder this time. Ariana lifts her head slowly, meeting Joy's gaze. There's no hesitation now. Whatever caution she started the show with is gone. I think avoidance is refusing to listen, Ariana replies. Boundaries are choosing what deserves your energy. Joy smiles thinly. And who decides that? You. Yes, Ariana says simply. The room goes quiet in a way that feels intentional. Cameras tighten their focus. One of the co-hosts shifts uncomfortably, sensing the edge they're standing on. Joy leans back, crossing her legs. That sounds nice, she says. But some people might hear that and think you're above criticism. Ariana shakes her head slowly. No, she says. I'm just not available for cruelty. That word, cruelty, lands hard. A collective gasp ripples through the audience, followed by applause that starts scattered and quickly swells. Joy's eyebrows lift. For the first time, her confidence wavers just slightly. Cruelty is a strong word, Joy says. So is the behavior, Ariana replies, her voice calm but unflinching. One of the co-hosts jumps in, attempting to soften the exchange, mentioning how social media can amplify negativity. Ariana nods, grateful for the opening, but Joy circles back again, relentless. But you still participate in that system, Joy says. You release music, you post, you engage. Isn't that inviting the conversation? Ariana leans forward now, elbows near the table, mirroring Joy's earlier posture. The symmetry isn't lost on anyone watching. Conversation isn't consent to abuse, she says. And success isn't permission for people to dehumanize you. The audience breaks into sustained applause, louder than anything so far. A few people stand again. The energy surges, electric and raw. Joy opens her mouth, then pauses. She glances briefly toward the audience, registering their reaction. When she speaks again, her tone has shifted, less combative, more defensive. "I'm not dehumanizing you," she says. "I'm asking hard questions." Ariana nods once. "And I'm giving honest answers," she says. "But when those questions keep framing me as something to be fixed, it stops feeling honest." That hits a nerve. The audience reacts audibly, a mix of hum, and applause. One co-host mouths, "Wow," under her breath. Joy exhales, her shoulders dropping slightly. "So what would you like people to understand?" she asks, finally opening the door instead of pushing against it. Ariana pauses. This time, the silence feels reflective rather than tense. She looks out at the audience, then back at the hosts. "I'd like people to understand that I'm a person before I'm a headline," she says. "That I make art because it's how I survive, not because I owe anyone access to my life." Her voice wavers just enough to reveal the emotion beneath the control. The audience listens intently, many visibly moved. Joy nods slowly. "That's fair," she says, but there's an edge of something unresolved in her eyes. "But do you understand why people feel invested in you?" "Yes," Ariana replies. "And I'm grateful for that. But investment doesn't mean ownership." The room erupts again. Applause fills the studio, sustained and emphatic. Even the co-hosts clap now, some more enthusiastically than others. Joy sits back, her expression thoughtful, but the tension hasn't fully dissipated. There's a sense that something has cracked open, something uncomfortable and real. As the segment winds toward its end, Joy offers one last comment, her voice measured. "You're clearly very passionate," she says. "I hope you know that people questioning you doesn't always come from a bad place." Ariana meets her gaze, softening just slightly. "I know," she says. "I just hope the questions come with humanity." For a brief moment, it feels like a truce. The audience applauds, relieved. The hosts smile, trying to reset the tone as the show prepares to move on. But beneath the surface, everyone knows what just happened wasn't easily erased. This wasn't just a passionate discussion. It was a collision of perspectives, played out live, unfiltered, and impossible to ignore. And as the cameras pull back, Ariana sits quietly, composed once more, while Joy stares ahead, thoughtful, perhaps reconsidering how far she pushed. The storm hasn't ended yet. It's only gathering its aftermath. When the cameras finally cut away from Ariana and the table, the applause doesn't stop right away. It lingers, echoing through the studio longer than planned, forcing the hosts to smile through a moment they can't fully control. The director signals for calm, but the audience is still processing what they've just witnessed. This wasn't a viral joke or a rehearsed soundbite. It was something raw, unfolding in real time. Ariana rises from her chair when the segment ends, offering polite nods to the co-hosts. Her expression is composed again, but the emotional residue hasn't faded. You can see it in the way she presses her lips together, in the way her shoulders remain squared as if she's still bracing for impact. Joy stands as well, smoothing her jacket, her face thoughtful, almost distant. They exchange a brief, civil acknowledgement. Nothing hostile, nothing warm. Just two people aware that a line was crossed, and that millions just watched it happen. Backstage, producers move quickly. Voices overlap. Phones come out almost immediately. One staffer whispers, "Twitter's already blowing up." Another shakes their head, half impressed, half nervous. Ariana's team closes in around her, checking in quietly, offering reassurance. She nods, says she's fine, but her eyes betray exhaustion more than relief. Out in the audience, people are still talking animatedly as they file out of the studio. Some replay Ariana's words to each other, emphasizing the lines that hit hardest. Others debate Joy's approach, arguing whether the questions were fair or unnecessarily sharp. There is no consensus, only energy. The kind that spills beyond the studio walls and doesn't stop once the lights go off. And sure enough, it doesn't. Within minutes, clips begin circulating online. Short videos cropped tightly around Ariana's face as she says, "I'm not available for cruelty." Screenshots of Joy mid-question, eyebrows raised. Captions appear faster than anyone can track. Some call it a powerful stand. Others call it an uncomfortable clash. Hashtags trend. Opinions harden. Ariana's fans rally instantly. They flood social media with messages of support, praising her composure, her clarity, her refusal to be boxed in. She stayed calm and still shut it down. One post reads, "That's strength." Another goes viral simply quoting her words about boundaries, no commentary needed. But the backlash arrives too, just as quickly. Critics argue that Joy was doing her job, that hard questions are part of public life, that celebrities can't expect comfort on daytime television. Think pieces start forming before the show has even finished airing in every time zone. Headlines sharpen the moment into a narrative. Confrontation, tension, patience lost. Joy, meanwhile, faces her own wave of reaction. Some defend her experience and insist she voiced what others were thinking. Others accuse her of pushing too far, of framing Ariana unfairly, of mistaking persistence for insight. Old clips resurface. Past interviews are re-examined. Context becomes currency, traded freely and often carelessly. By the end of the day, entertainment news outlets are leading with the story. Panel discussions replay the exchange frame by frame. Body language experts weigh in. Social commentators argue over tone, intent, and power dynamics. What began as a daytime interview has transformed into a cultural moment. Ariana doesn't respond right away. She posts nothing for hours, letting the noise swell without adding to it. When she finally does, it's understated. A simple message thanking her fans for their support and emphasizing kindness. No callouts, no subtweets, just calm, deliberate restraint. The post is shared thousands of times within minutes. That restraint becomes part of the story too. People notice the contrast, the heat of the debate versus the quiet of her response. For many, it reinforces what they felt watching live, that Ariana wasn't looking for a fight. She was drawing a boundary. And boundaries, once drawn publicly, make people uncomfortable. In interviews days later, Joy addresses the moment carefully. She insists there was no bad blood, that disagreement doesn't equal disrespect. She acknowledges the intensity, but stands by her right to ask difficult questions. Her words are measured, but the conversation around her remains loud. What lingers most, though, isn't who won the exchange. It's how it felt to watch. The stillness before Ariana answered. The way the audience reacted not to volume, but to clarity. The realization that patience doesn't always snap loudly. Sometimes it simply runs out. For viewers at home, the moment becomes personal. Some see themselves in Ariana's exhaustion, in the burden of being misunderstood. Others relate to Joy's insistence on accountability, on not letting public figures off easily. The clash reflects something bigger than either woman alone. It exposes a cultural tension between access and autonomy, between curiosity and entitlement. And that's why it doesn't fade quickly. Weeks later, the clip is still being shared, still being debated, still being referenced whenever conversations about celebrity boundaries, media pressure, or public scrutiny resurface. It becomes shorthand for a feeling many recognize but struggle to articulate. Ariana Grande didn't raise her voice. She didn't storm off. She didn't dramatize her frustration. She did something quieter, and in many ways braver. She stayed, she spoke, and she refused to be reduced. Joy Behar didn't back down easily either. She embodied the pushback that often comes when boundaries are challenged. Together, in that tense exchange, they created a moment that felt unscripted, uncomfortable, and real. And those are the moments people remember. Now, we want to hear from you. Do you think Ariana was right to draw the line the way she did? Or was Joy simply asking the questions no one else would? Drop your opinion in the comments below. This conversation doesn't end here. If you want more intense, cinematic breakdowns of the most explosive celebrity moments, make sure you subscribe to Prime Talk, hit that like button, and share this story with someone who needs to see it. More dramatic, unfiltered stories are coming, and you won't want to miss what happens next.